Happy Victory Monday, Dolphins. My name is Dolfreaky. Welcome back to the PFN Miami Dolphins podcast. I'm here once again with my co-host, Adam Beasley, and we are in the final week of the preseason. Yes, we've made it. How are you, Adam? How are things?
I am thrilled that we are in the last week of the preseason. I am flying tomorrow to beautiful Tampa, Florida. That big, 45-minute flight.
Mind you, he's flying from Miami to Tampa. How bougie of you.
False. I am flying from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa, which is even closer.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. So a half-hour flight?
Not very long.
Takeoff and landing.
The flight is cheaper than the gas to drive up there. So it'll give me a chance to sit back, relax, do a little bit of work, and I'll land and I'll be your neck of the woods. Really? Although you're still 2 hours from Tampa, are you?
Yeah, I'm 2.5 hours away, so it's not too bad. But I for one will be driving and spending the gas because flying from
Fort Myers to Tampa really does. I don't think there's any flights between them unless you want to fly.
No, and RSW is a very expensive airport, no matter where you're trying to go. So it's just not even worth the aggravation and the security and all the baggage that Dolfreaky requires to go places. No, it's not worth it. I'll drive.
Yeah, seriously, your check bag fee is probably more than your flight fee.
I need a bag just for my hair and my helmet.
Well, I am bringing Southwest. There's no bag fee, so I am bringing my a check bag and my golf clubs because Thursday is going to be a quiet day. Practice on Wednesday, off day Thursday, game on Friday. So I'll have some time to.
The golfing is good in Tampa, right? I always thought Naples was the hot spot for golf, but I'm told differently.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be playing, the $400 round courses that they have in that area. We'll probably, poor journalists will probably be paying closer to $50 to $70 for the round, but it'll be fun nonetheless. It'll be good to get out there and good to see one more week of evaluation for a lot of these players that are on the bubble, right?
Yeah, so joint practice starts Wednesday.
There's only one day of it. Yeah, Wednesday's the only day.
Only one day. Okay, so you'll be out there, and hopefully it won't be too hot like it has been in Miami. But we shall see.
Are you coming for practice or just the game?
No, I'm just coming for the game. So I'm going to come up Friday midday, drop the kids at my parents. Shout out to my parents who live in St. Pete. I know they watch the show every week, so I love you guys. We just took the whole family to the game this weekend, actually, and it was awesome. I had my kids out there, my niece and my nephew, my brother-in-law, my aunts, my parents and Jared, and we had such a great time.
I saw the pictures. It always looks like you're in a glamour shot. I mean, that really is this is Dolfreaky in the wild, and it's
Dolfreaky in the wild. I'm my happiest and my most glowiest, and that's my happy place. I really just fully love it. I would rather go to Hard Rock Stadium, than Disney World or honestly anywhere else. So you'll see me in all my glory, prancing around the stadium, taking a million selfies with people, and I was lucky enough to get field access for this. Before the game. So that was awesome. And I got to see Tyreek and Waddle and OBJ, tossing around the ball a little bit before the game. And then I got to see the game up close and personal. So I was living the life this game.
You're the 1%. I'm just trying to, it's your world. We're just all living in it, Dolfreaky.
I know. I had a couple people message me I just love watching you do all your Dolphins things and living your best life. And I'm listen, I'm happy to share what I do. I feel like it helps the people back home, to feel part of it. And, the people who aren't in the local area here. And so I'm happy to share it. So thanks for following the journey, guys.
Well, you saw a Dolphins win. I see you're wearing your
Victory Monday. Yeah, we got Victory Monday today, baby. This shirt is new.
It looks fresh. It looks clean.
Yes, it is such a fresh design. This is made by Finn's Gear. Some of my great friends, Chris and Bob, have this company, and this shirt's just fire. So if you want to get this shirt, go on finsgear.com and use code Dolfreaky, and you can get one in preparation for the season.
How about that? Maybe we can get them to advertise on the Miami Dolphins, PFN Miami Dolphins podcast.
I bet they would love that. I know they would definitely go for it. And I just think that every Dolphins fan needs to be prepared because there will be many, many, many more Victory Mondays coming this season.
Well, the games are going to count soon. Like we are 20 days out from the start of the regular season.
I know. I'm getting nervous.
It's about that time. I mean, look, you right out the gate, Jaguars and Bills. I know those games are both at home, but they're also like you cannot start 0-2. Absolutely cannot start 0-2. Want to be 2-0. I think 1-1 they'd probably take with you get through that stretch there, and then it eases up a little bit. We'll get into all that in the weeks to come. Let's first kind of look back to that game on Saturday. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, the Dolphins pulled out the win, 13-6 over the Commanders, and
high scoring affair.
Yeah, it was like field goals, but missed field goals, more like it. So, yeah, I think the Dolphins were lucky that the Commanders were having some issues with their field goals.
Yeah, so we did see one series out of Tua.
Yes, we did. We thought Tua would come out.
61-yard touchdown drive, 11 plays. He was 5 of 5 on that play with a 13-yard touchdown pass to River Craycraft, which was kind of
it was like one of those things like just shush the haters right quick to just come out.
The point I was going to make is it was double-edged sword because it was great to see the offense look sharp, but on that catch, River Craycraft got hurt.
Yes.
And we learned today that he's probably going to be out for a significant amount of time. Now, he'll be back at some point this season. But, yeah, that was certainly a downer from that drive, which otherwise was fantastic.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. It happened right in my corner, so I got up close and personal with it, and I enjoyed it. But, yeah, do you know what River Craycraft's injury is?
Someone told me he was getting ice on his shoulder. So maybe as a separator dislocated
when he landed,
like
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll know more obviously when we get to the season. They might put him on IR. He's got 3 weeks. I mean, they have to decide next week the roster situation, but he's got 3 weeks till the season starts. And if they feel like he can be back in a month, maybe they don't even IR him and they'll just kind of carry him in the active roster. Dolphins, they got some questions at wide receiver. I mean, I wrote about this today. He joins a very, 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 very long list of banged up wideouts. That's easy for you to say.
That's tongue twister.
Obviously, Odell Beckham has yet to practice with the team. He remains on the physically unavailable form list. Jalen Waddle, he's been out for a couple of weeks, although it doesn't sound like it sounds like if it was the season, he'd be out there, he'd be playing. So I don't think there's much concern for him for week 1. We knew about Taj Washington for some time. He's been on IR. He won't play this season. Level of concern for you for all these injuries they have at the wide receiver position?
I mean, yeah, obviously this is a area where we need to be spot on. And, I kind of had hoped maybe that OBJ would be ready to go at this point. And I didn't know too much about the Waddle injury. I'd seen him out there and, he was tossing the ball, like I said, but, that is obviously very concerning because it puts a lot of pressure on, Tyreek Hill and now adding River Craycraft and, we still have Braxton Berrios. We released Snead or something happened with Snead today.
He got put on injured reserve, but he really wasn't part of their plans anyway.
Okay. So he's also hurt. So, yeah, I definitely have concerns there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, we'll see. Odell for me is the whole ball of wax. Tyreek's going to be there week 1. Waddle's going to be there week 1. Obviously not having Rivers, not great, but Braxton, my God, I'm having trouble. Braxton and Malik, my guess, will be there, and Ezukanma's got a chance to make the roster too. Well, depends on what their 53 looks like, whether or not they keep Craycraft on the active or they IR him. But to me, Odell's the entire ball game. Like last year, Braxton was their number 3. As essentially he and River were 3A, 3B, whatever you want to describe it as, and they really didn't have much other than that. Now we're going to see, I think, a fair amount of Devon Achane at wide receiver. We saw it in the game some. I think we're going to see it in the regular season. He looked really good.
He did.
They couldn't get the running game going so much. I think there's still concerns about that interior offensive line, but the passing game looked really good. Even when the backup quarterbacks came in, there were some issues, but receivers were getting open, and there will be opportunities for this team to make plays down the field. But if Odell's not there, they're back in the same situation they were last year. Now, it's a little bit better because they have Jonnu Smith, who he looked active in that, the first time we've seen him in a Dolphins uniform in a game. But, yeah, if Odell's not ready, it's going to create some issues like they had last year, where teams are going to just really key on Tyreek and Waddle and dare somebody else to beat them.
Do you happen to know why we hadn't seen much from Jalen Wright this game? I don't think he played at all, if I'm not mistaken.
He had a minor injury. I think
Okay.
I think McDaniel said he got hurt Thursday in practice. So
they didn't even risk it.
No. I mean, that's okay. I don't think there's any concern about him being available for the opener.
Okay, well, I mean, at least some of these injuries sound minor, and hopefully we can use this time between the Buccaneers game and the actual season opener to work and recover.
Well, I think you're going to see. It would surprise me if you see the starters if at all, and if they do play, it'll be very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
The Dolphins added a bunch of backups today, guys that don't really have much of a great chance to make the roster, but they need to get through the week, right? They got joint practices and they need to get through the game. Running backs Xander Horwath and Anthony McFarland Jr. Now Horvath, not Horwath. Horvath is more of a fullback than he is a running back. They signed Jadon Jenke, I believe his name is pronounced, a wide receiver, and a linebacker, Daquan Jackson. In the meantime, to make room for them in the roster, as you mentioned, as I mentioned, Snead's on IR. Sean Harlow, offensive lineman, got hurt. He's done for the year. And Savon Ahmed has been cut. And Ezekiel Vandenberg's been cut, waived, injured. So Ahmed's an interesting situation because I never really understood why he re-signed with the team this offseason. The Dolphins were loaded at running back when he signed, and that was March. And their depth got even better when they drafted Jalen Wright, who you mentioned. So he didn't really have a home. He needed either a bunch of injuries at the running back position, or he needed just a fantastic summer. And neither of those things happened. And they moved on from him today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. The defense, the defense didn't look bad to me. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but Chop Robinson had some action. We had some sack action. So, that was good to see on Saturday night.
Some saction. Yeah, no, he and Mo Kamara have been really, really active. And, they're not going to be perfect. Patrick Paul, other rookie, had splash plays, had moments of really good play, but he also had some really bad moments too. You're going to have that with guys at this age. Malik Washington, I think if he's going to have an impact on this team this year, he's got to get better at catching the football. He's getting open. It's just not, for some reason, it's not happening, although he's been pretty strong in the return game. So to your point, the defense, it's hard to really say. I mean, Cam Smith looked okay up and down. He gave up a couple of throws, and then he hurt his hamstring, and he's probably going to be out for a few weeks. There was no Jalen Ramsey. There was no Javon Holland. There's Kendall Fuller. Did he play? I can't even remember. Fuller, I'll have to look. But regardless, the defensive backfield largely was, backups. You saw some of the front seven. I think they're going to be fine against the run. I think if they can get pressure on the quarterback, that secondary is going to make a lot of plays. It's going to take a minute for them to get that Anthony Weaver system, just like they did last year with the Vic Fangio system. But yeah, there's nothing I saw in that game that really alarmed me too much. And the plays they did give up, they're given up by guys that probably aren't going to be in the field because they're backups.
Yeah, true. So today we had some drama, some old drama being rehashed by our friend Tua today to the media regarding Brian Flores and his treatment of Tua and other players on the team, as Tua had alluded to. Do you want to read some of those quotes that we had today from Tua? It sounded a little bit, I know a lot of people on the internet are saying right now, okay, like, get over it, Tua, look forward to the future, get past the past. But I think that this is kind of important to understand the journey that Tua has gone through since he started with Brian Flores, and the journey that he's come through in gaining his confidence. I think this is super important for, the new Tua, the new, more confident Tua that we're seeing today, which is in big part to Coach McDaniel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say he had PTSD because I think that's
Detroit. It sounds like PTSD.
It sounds a little bit like he's got some trauma there that he's still working through. And it's good for him and just the backstory, he appeared on the Dan Le Batard show. They sat down with him recently. And the clip that really is making waves is this. It was Dan asked him, Can you explain to us the difference in practical terms between having a head coach who believes in you the way he does, and what was happening with Brian Flores, who obviously, this is me talking, obviously did not believe in Tua at all. Quote, well, to put it in the simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you, quote, you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this. And then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you're the best fit for us. Like, you are accurate. You're the best whatever. You are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it regardless of what it is, the good or the bad, and you hear it more and more. You start to actually believe that I don't care who you are. You can be the president of the United States. You have a terrible, here's the real quote. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself. And so that's sort of like what ended up happening. And it's basically been that 2 years of training that out of me. But, a couple of guys as well that have been here since my rookie year all the way till now, basically I'm saying they dealt with it as well. So he says it's been 2 years of training his brain.
That's like PTSD level right there. Yeah.
Not to think he sucks. And so, look, old school football people are going to be like, suck it up. Negative feedback is part of the game.
Right.
You got to be tough. Dude played for Nick Saban for 3 years, won a championship for Nick Saban. Nick Saban's not some modern pushover coach by any stretch of the imagination. He's a hard ass, but Nick also knows the limits of being a hard ass.
Right.
I don't think Brian Flores ever did. And what he did to Tua, and I think Austin Jackson's spoken on it as well, guys in that 2020 draft class, that he just completely crushed their psyche. I mean, just totally destroyed their self-confidence. And it took Mike McDaniel coming in to lift them up. So I understand that probably it's not something they should be talking about now, 2.5 years removed. But if this is what,
but now you feel safe. Sometimes you don't feel safe in the moment to talk about things that are hurting you or, controversial. And now, feels like a safe window, right?
Yeah. And to be fair, Brian Flores is now the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings. And Kevin O'Connell is the head coach, his boss there. And let me see if I can pull up the exact quote on my phone. Kevin O'Connor says defensive coordinator Brian Flores, who was sharply criticized by Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa in comments that emerged on Monday, has, quote, great relationships in Minnesota. That's according to Pro Football Talk. That might be true, but Brian Flores had good relationships in New England as a defensive coordinator as well. For whatever reason, he thought as head coach, he had to be this tyrant. And it's possible that he's learned from it. But if I were an owner of an NFL football team and I had a vacancy for my head coaching position, and it was between Brian Flores and someone like Mike McDaniel, who is just ray of sunshine positivity, especially if I had a young and developing quarterback or I knew I was going to draft a quarterback, how do you trust the guy's just not going to break somebody else's soul like he broke Tua's?
This is unreal to me that he could, but you have had more interaction with him, being in the media and, being at those press conferences. Did he come off as a friendly person and then like behind closed doors, he's like Jekyll and Hyde? Like,
no. Brian Flores was never warm and cuddly. Now he knew how to tamp it down in front of us. But there have been,
because to me, he came off a little quiet, maybe press conference wasn't really his thing,
Oh, I think he had no use for us whatsoever. I think McDaniel sees the benefits of having a good relationship with the media, and he's going to, let's put it bluntly, he's going to probably get some leeway that Brian Flores wouldn't because of the goodwill he's engendered among the people who cover him. It's just how it works that and again, we all have our own biases and we try to play it down the middle and we try to tell it how it is. But if we're not going to go out of our way to give someone the benefit of the doubt who's a complete a-hole to us, and he was that in a lot of ways, it wasn't every day, but certainly there were moments that it was just not professional, I think, in ways that, he was dealing with us. So if that was to us who helped control the message, can't imagine what it's like. His staff, how many offensive assistants that he burned through in his 3 years there. $1 million. I think he fired his first offensive line coach the 4th day of training camp of his first year. I mean, all these stories, it all paints a picture of a guy that just wasn't equipped for that level of responsibility for what it takes to be a 21st century head coach.
Right. And then you have McDaniel come in here who's positive, uplifting, dishing out compliments, like a therapist, like the man to come in and repair the damage. And, I just think it's so funny how this can like relate to people everywhere, not just athletes, but like I'm a parent, right? And like kids don't feed off the constant negativity and, just berating them over every little thing. They feed off of positivity and positive reinforcement. And this is a new school. This is like a new school parenting thing from what I understand. Parents back in the day whooped you with a belt, whatever it was. Like it was a different type of discipline back then. It was a different type of parenting. And now we just realize like as a society, people tend to benefit more from being positively reinforced in whatever way possible. But in order to be a confident person, to be a leader, a lot of times those people are not the ones who came from households where, negativity was the way it was, where there was a dad who was constantly on you all the time. Like they came from, households that fostered love and caring and support. And so now we have this household in the Miami Dolphins organization where it's a supportive environment, and Tua is thriving. And I love that.
Yeah. And I absolutely correct. Everything you said is absolutely right. I think there's a happy medium. I don't think you can be all positivity all the time. If your kid gets an F in the test because he didn't study,
tell him like it is. Yeah.
You're grounded, dude. Seriously. But then you help him
help him get better. Yeah. Help him work through it. Help him see his potential and what are the solutions to that problem? Not make them feel like total, what?
Yeah. And Brian Flores made Tua Tagovailoa feel like what. And okay, so we got McDaniel. I got McDaniel today at his news conference, and all this was the big storyline. And I asked a bunch of players, and obviously they all said they'd rather play with a guy who's upbeat and positive than the guy a guy who builds you up aside from the guy who tears you down. So I asked McDaniel. I was like, for long stretches of history of college and NFL coaches, they were harping on the negative, old school, Bill Parcells, we're going to kick you in your ass and all that. I asked him, well, you embrace the power of positivity. Why is that? And why do you think it's more effective? And here is his answer. I think me personally, it makes sense given the current climate of the trials and tribulations of players in the modern era. I think there are a countless number of reporting by people that wouldn't deserve the title of a reporter necessarily because of the advent of social media. And there's a lot of negative in the world and a lot of people telling you when you do stuff wrong. Basically, he's saying there's a lot of a-holes on Twitter that have a platform that get in these guys' ears and they impact their confidence. For me, I think to really maximize someone, I think it's beneficial for someone to be showing them a vision of their greatest self. Quite honestly, it's something that I've drawn from in my life. I know if my mother didn't pitch to me that I was worth something, I don't know where I'd be. For me, that's the way I approach it. I don't think there's any absolute way to do anything, but for me to reach players, that's what's made sense in my journey. I just stick to myself and what makes sense for me to do my job as I see it for them. And a lot of things to unpack there. He had, a very loving, caring mother. He came from a single parent household at first, and his mother got remarried. And he's had obviously a very stable life since, but I don't know if he has a relationship at all with his biological father. And it's easy for, kids and non-traditional, I'm a product of divorce. I know what it's like to have questions about their self-esteem and their self-worth and all that, and credit his mom for absolutely, building up his self-confidence. Smarts has never been the issue with Mike McDaniel. And he was, we talk about all the things that he's gone through with substance abuse and clinical depression and all these things that, he's had to overcome. I don't think any of that would have been possible if he didn't have someone in his life, the most important person in his life, aside from his wife and his child, his mother, just being his advocate. And we all need advocates. in life. So I think that was interesting. I think the fact that he acknowledged that modern day athletes have they're not the same as they were 30 years ago. They're just not. And certainly not the same as they were 50 years ago. It's a completely different climate when it comes to feedback and media and all that. Here's something that's interesting, Allie. What he's doing is the right thing to do. It's, you'll talk to people in mental health. It's the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do, because not only is he getting the best out of Tua Tagovailoa, he's able to attract very good players who have options to come to the Dolphins and maybe come for a little bit less because they know the environment that he's creating. And that to me is sustainable. It's something that, players come and go, but if that's the culture, if the culture of the Miami Dolphins is of inclusion, of happiness, of joy, of we're going to get the best version out of you and we're not going to do it, we're going to do it with a carrot, not a stick, so to speak. Yeah. I think that really that word spreads. And I think a perfect example is Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell he might be going to the Hall of Fame. His legacy is set as an NFL player. And he decided to come here to chase a ring, but there are other places that he could have gone to chase a ring. And I think he did it here in part because of the culture. Certainly coming back to Miami, he played at UM. I'm sure that played a role too. But I asked him, and here's what I asked him today. You've played for a lot of coaches throughout your career. Have you ever played for a coach whose positivity radiates like Mike McDaniel? Some coaches motivate by fear, by criticism. He seems to motivate by positivity. And here's Calais' quote. Quote, he is unique to say the least. He definitely is just very positive, happy to be here every day. You could tell energy is contagious. So it kind of rubs off and we all kind of get happy to be here because it's a get to job. Like it's a job that's a luxury. A luxury. To do. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of people out there that wish they could have this opportunity. A lot of guys that I've played with that are out of the league that wish they could still be playing. You never want to take one day for granted. And there's a lot of guys right now competing for jobs. A few weeks from now, it's going to be a whole different locker room. And that's also surreal. But right now, we just get to enjoy the journey where we're at right now and make the best of it. He does a good job making sure we keep that energy. And again, I think that's something that is sustainable. And I think it's long after Calais Campbell is gone from here, if the Dolphins are still winning games, it's going to be because it's a place where people want to come and they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think culture is a big part of it. And like, if you look at any workplace, when you have a boss and you have employees in that relationship, so I'm a pharmacist, right? And like the pharmacist leads the day, like the shift, I'm in charge of the shift, right? And I have my technicians that work under me. If I'm having a bad day and I let that transcend onto my technicians, it's going to transcend from them onto my patients. And we're all going to have a bad day. If I have a bad day, we all have a bad day. If I have a great day and I have a positive attitude and everything's going great and everyone's happy, then the patients are happy and the patient experience is better. So like it's going to translate not only to, obviously from coach onto the employees, essentially the players, and it's going to translate to the fans. It's going to translate to the product on the field. And hopefully, it'll translate to wins. And, that's obviously what we want. So I'm totally, totally down with this mentality. It's the mentality that I subscribe to also. And so it's nice to hear players talk about McDaniel in this type of light. And unfortunately, the whole Flores thing it seems just progressively worse as the years go on, and it's unfortunate, but luckily we are where we are now.
Yeah, no, and again, it's Steve Ross was on the local broadcast of the preseason game on Saturday, and he basically said we took a chance on Mike, and it's worked out, and that's true. It was like it would have been very easy for them to hire another coach that's more like Brian Flores. Maybe not quite so Captain Insano, but like that old school Bill Belichick mold. Steve Ross.
And it makes me think of Fangio. Maybe that's another reason why Fangio didn't survive to see another year with the Dolphins.
A man of a different era. And Steve Ross is a man of a different era. He's 84 years old.
But he's also seen it all.
He's seen it all. And he
sees what works and what doesn't work.
And he's open-minded enough. And I think he really feeds off the energy of younger people and vibrant ideas and all this. And look, we're not sending Mike McDaniel to the Hall of Fame quite yet, right? Like, let's not crown the guy. Let's win a playoff game first. But I think
I get those feelings though. Like I do, I get really good feelings from him. I feel like, at some point, like I know it's early in his coaching career, but like he gives us good feels, and like hopefully his good feels translate into wins.
Yep. Well, and the good news is he's really, really smart too.
Yeah,
So,
really smart.
and he's put together a staff that I think is one of the better staffs they've had here. We'll find out soon if all this talking leads to something. And as I said, we got to get through this week first in Tampa. But really soon, it's going to be time to do this. And I think the fact that they have someone leading this team that's a believer, he believes in them. And even when he doesn't believe in them, he makes them think he believes in them, which is just as important. Yeah. I think it's a really good thing.
I like what he said about like show someone a vision of their greatest self, because a lot of times, when you're a player and you're envisioning that this is like, okay, I'm, like you say you're Tyreek, like someday I'm going to be the number one player in the NFL. And if you don't think that and you don't believe that, and I feel like Tyreek is like the great person to really talk about this, but if you don't fully believe that, you're not going to get there. And, Tyreek from day one is telling his mom, like, I'm going to be the number one player in the NFL someday. And guess what? He did it. So you have to believe that. You have to have that vision. So I like it. It's good Victory Monday vibes.
I'm starting to get really twitchy because these are 2 shows in a row that have just been way too positive.
Well, that's what happens when you bring me on the show. What do you think is going to happen? They brought me in here to change your negative.
Nancy, yeah, it's true. You're rubbing off on me, Del Freaky.
I'm happy to do it. Listen, I'm so happy to do it. But before we wrap this up, I just want to mention, if anyone's going to Tampa for the game, we are having a Dolphin tailgate. This is co-hosted with Tampa Dolphins, a local group there. And so we're going to be tailgating in Mike's lot starting at 4:30 before the game. So you guys should come through, come have some freaky juice and say hi. I can't wait. I'm excited. I love to go to Tampa. Energy is good there. Hopefully there's not too much of the firing of the cannons. They like to go boom, boom, boom every time a point is scored by Tampa. So hopefully we don't hear too much of that.
Hopefully we'll meet up at some point when we're up
there. We definitely will.
Tuesday through Saturday. I think you're just there one night, but
yep.
And then this is like the last, all right, let's get through this situation.
Yeah.
A week, we get to Monday, a week from today when we're taping this, a week from today. It's for real. Cuts are Tuesday, and then it's off to the races.
Yeah, I'm excited. So thank you guys so much for watching, as you always do. We appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing, liking, interacting with us. And if you have any questions about tailgates or anything else, there's so many things going on, dude. Like there's just so much going on all the time. But yes, just please feel free to reach out. I'm always available.
Until next week.
Fins up.